Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on ChatGPT for Law Firms. Have a lot of people signed up for the webinar today, so they're still trickling in. So we're just going to give them maybe another half minute to a minute for everybody to come in. But in the meantime,
I think we picked a good topic, Mike.
I think we sure did. Certainly really popular, and geez, the whole world is abuzz about ChatGPT ever since they had their last major release. But yeah, definitely a really good topic and a really interesting tool with lots of great uses. So, man, I wish I. Okay. All right. So people are still sort of trickling in, but we might as well, just get moving a little bit. So for those who may or may not know us, I am Michael Shagru. I'm joined here by Tyler Sanders. Say hi, Tyler.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone.
So we're both Chief Revenue Officers and partners here at Pace Technical. And for those who aren't familiar with Pace, we've been in business now a little over 23 years. We are a managed IT service, but definitely have a skew towards proactive services. So we also specialize in managed IT security, managed cloud services. We're about 60 people in the company. We're an ISO 9001 certified business, and for the last 8 years, we've been a great place to work. Currently, we're working with just over 60 law firms, so I have a lot of experience in your space here. So if you look to the right, this is kind of what our company looks like. We provide all the basic services that most IT companies in our space provide, the basic maintenance, monitoring, cloud services, backups, security management. And there's our help desk team, projects team, migrating people to the cloud, upgrading service, things like that. Most people want to work with us for the proactive side of our business. With our proactive alignment team, aligning our clients to a very specific set of standards, IT standards, best practices, et cetera. Bar none, just gets better results. Our consulting team helping our clients make strategic decisions, creating that IT roadmap for them that helps them plan in advance and budget for IT changes and helping them get the most out of the investment they're making. And lastly, our IT security team, led by our in-house certified CISSP that runs a team of people here, both consulting our company as well as our clients on their IT security. So look, if we haven't had a conversation in the past, we'd love to have one. If we haven't had one in a while, certainly. If you're a client already of Pace, welcome. So let's just keep going here. I don't know if probably some people on the call here have been to some of our previous webinars. If you have or haven't, if you've never been to a webinar, welcome. If you've been to previous ones, maybe you've not seen them all, but for anyone on the call here, we provide recordings of all of our webinars for free access to anyone that wants it. You just go to our website, pacetechnical.com, go to the media drop-down menu. Under resources, you'll see the listing of all the webinars there, and you can click to watch. Lots of good topics in there: cybersecurity, Microsoft products, some business topics in there as well. So feel free to go ahead and access that. So let's have a quick look at our agenda today. Just a super simple basic, what is ChatGPT? We're going to do a live demo. So the majority of this webinar is going to be a live demo of the tool itself. We're going to then look at some specific examples and use cases specifically for law firms, and then talk about limitations, maybe some best practices, and everyone on the call here today, we're going to send out a copy of our ChatGPT cheat sheet, which has got some basic info and things to look at and know about for ChatGPT. We'll end it all with Q&A. So some super quick housekeeping. Obviously, all attendees, you're in listen-only mode. The webinar is being recorded, so just so everyone knows, afterwards we are going to send out access to the recording to all people who have signed up for the webinar. And we want this to be as interactive as possible. So you can ask questions during the webinar. Just use you'll see on the bottom of your window, the little Q&A. There's also a little chat button on there as well, which you can also use too, or if you want, you can raise your hand. But yeah, most of it is going to be live and interactive. So we're really hoping that as we go through and show you some of the functionality and show you a few ideas and examples, that you might start thinking about things that you might like to try, and certainly throw it in the chat or throw it in the Q&A if there's anything you'd like us to test out for you and do live on the webinar today. And we're hoping to leave about 15 minutes at the end. And hopefully we'll be right around on time. I'm going to try and keep myself on track here and just keep things moving. So let's start out first with a quick poll question. Just want to kind of get an idea. I mean, it's really a buzz all over the place, but how many of you have already, logged in and used ChatGPT? Have looked at it, have tried it out, tested it, maybe even actively using it in your business already. And we'll try and get a really good indication here. And I think the responses have slowed down pretty quickly. I'm just going to give it a couple of more sections, but I think this is probably going to be a pretty close representation. I'm just going to end it off there because I don't think any other responses are going to make that much of a difference. But I'm going to just share the results here. As you can see, it's actually pretty close. So maybe about what I expected, that some people have tried it. Who knows? Maybe there's some people on the call that are heavy users, but hopefully the people that have never used it before are going to get a good look at it. And maybe once we're done here today, they'll actually sign up and test it out.
Yeah, and if you are already using it in the firm, we'd love to hear how you're using it and giving us some feedback there, because I'm sure others would be interested in real case examples of it being used.
Exactly. And full disclosure to everybody, I mean, just like pretty much everybody else on the planet, with the exception of the people that built this tool, most people are still, learning and trying to use it. So this webinar today is certainly going to be more of a high level, very introductory look at the tool and how you might be able to use it, and hopefully giving you some ideas. But there's absolutely no way that we can cover everything about this tool. And certainly a lot more advanced things, would be, webinars all to themselves. But in the future, as this tool develops, maybe we will do a bit more of an advanced version of it at some point in the future, if everybody thinks that might be a good idea. So let's just start off super basic. What is ChatGPT? We're going to talk a little bit more about specifically what it is, but just a little bit of background on it. OpenAI is the company that created it basically back in 2015. Fun fact, Elon Musk was one of the founders. He's actually not a part of it anymore. I'm not sure why that is, but whatever. And right now we're on the 4th iteration, which is called GPT-4, which was just released in November of 2022. And I think that was the release that, caused, certainly a whole lot more buzz around this tool and got everybody really excited about it. Over the years, I think the first iteration, GPT-1, came out, I want to say in 2016. Just to give you some context, I think it had around 17 million data points at that particular time. And this most recent release it's in the billions of data points that it has as far as content. Because basically that's what it is. It's an amalgamation of all kinds of data, text, content that it uses, and then it has this engine and a logarithm that parses it and makes it usable for us. One other small fun fact, I don't even know if this is absolutely current or not, but the last value that I saw for OpenAI, they were valued at $29 billion. So
probably a bargain knowing the use case potential for this.
Exactly. So now we're just going to, I'm going to stop this share here and reshare, and we're just going to jump right into the demo. So the first thing that anybody using the tool would do would be to go to openai.com. Once you're there, this is the home screen. So if you don't have an account, we're not going to go through the whole process, but just to see, you would click on the sign up button. You can either sign up using an email address, or you can quickly sign in if you're already logged in with Google or a Microsoft account or with your Apple ID. And then once you click next, create a password, and away you go. But seeing that I already have an account, I'm just going to click to log in. And I've already logged in earlier, so it remembers me. So once you log in, this is what you'll see. So there's 3 options when you first get in here for using the tool. The first one, just called ChatGPT. This is the main tool, and this is what everybody's going to be using when they're working with it. But I'll quickly just touch on these other 2, and we're not going to get into it. The second one here is DALL-E, and this is a basically a graphic engine where you can actually have it generate images for you. So unlike the regular version of ChatGPT, this is a paid version, so you have to buy credits. So if I click to buy credits, you can see 115 credits. Like, I don't know if that buys you 115 images or whatnot, but anyways, 115 credits are $15 US. But it works somewhat similar to the general ChatGPT. You give basically a description of what you're looking for. I'll just show you a couple of examples. So this picture here, the input that the person put in was 3D render of a cute tropical fish in an aquarium on a dark blue background, comma, digital art. And this is what the picture that it generated. And just one other quick example, they input, give me an armchair in the shape of an avocado, and it generated this picture. So I could see playing around in this thing for hours here too, but we're not going to spend time on this today. We're just going to keep things a little bit more high level. So if I just go back, the API, this is basically what a programmer, an integrator, a developer would use to use this engine in another piece of software. And there already exists, who knows, people on the call may have already been using many different things. I know that there is one, I've actually tried using it unsuccessfully, but it's called ChatSpot. We're big HubSpot users for our CRM system, and there's one called ChatSpot, which is an integration supposed to help you like generating reports and things like that. Actually, the last couple of times I tried logging into it, it wasn't working. So I don't know if their site is down or whatnot, but anyways, this is just what an area developer would use. So for the standard user, you're just going to click on ChatGPT, and here's the interface that shows up. So there's 2 levels of this. There's a free version and then the paid version. The paid version is called Plus. I happen to have a Plus account. So the standard free version right now gets you the use of this GPT 3.5, version 3.5. And their description says it's the fastest model, great for most everyday tasks, and it's free, available to both the free and Plus users. So Plus gets you access to this one here, which is GPT-4. Their description, the most capable model, great for tasks that require creativity and advanced reasoning. So maybe some more advanced queries. It also did tell me when I was signing up for it that it gave me a little bit more privileged access, especially during really busy times, that it was also going to give preferential treatment to Plus users. But the one thing about Plus, you can see the little message here. GPT-4 currently has a cap of 25 messages every 3 hours. So in the instance of doing the demo, I don't want to get tripped up hitting a limit of messages. So I'm just going to do it on GPT 3.5, which is what most people will be using anyways.
Yeah, we did hit some performance issues yesterday in using it. I guess it's a bit of supply and demand right now, where the infrastructure isn't necessarily capable of handling the number of queries coming in. So there was a period yesterday of a couple of hours where it wasn't even able to respond to our queries because it was just overloaded.
Yeah, there was a big outage on it yesterday, and we're not sure if it was a technical issue or just due to a surge in activity. So we're very hopeful that most of this webinar is based on a live demo, that doesn't happen to us today. So the left menu here, you can see it automatically starts a new chat for you. But if you wanted to start a new one, and occasionally you will, once you go deep into a thread, you're going to need to create a new one or delete the one that you've been working on, because at some point with a lot of data, ChatGPT will sort of trip over its own words and just sort of kind of not be able to function. But anyways, so basically it's a chat, and it's kind of like a conversational chat is what it is. So there's at the base of it, ChatGPT is this amalgamation of all kinds of data, but there's a couple of caveats to it. First off, ChatGPT is not connected to the internet, certainly not right now. I'm not sure if it's ever going to be connected to the internet in the future, but right now you can't say, go to www and tell me what this website does, because it can't do that. So it's been trained on a large data set that's, text sources from the internet. It includes like books, articles, websites, and other publicly available written material. So basically, it's developed through the engine that it has a really good understanding of like language patterns, facts, and general knowledge. But by no means is it human. It uses like, there's techniques of automated collection, like books, obviously, and text in books and things like that. They could just do automated collection, but other sources, they've used even human curation to monitor that, because obviously they want the cleanest, most useful, most factual information inside of here. And at a certain point, a human has to get involved in deciphering that as well. The other caveat about ChatGPT is the data set is only current until September of 2021. So that's the last time that they input data. So if you try to search for something really current or something in 2022 or even earlier this year, it can't do that. It doesn't have any of that information stored just yet. So with all that said, let's just jump into the tool here and start with like the first and most basic category, which is you can ask ChatGPT very simple questions. Let's start with a really good one and see how it answers it. What is ChatGPT? So if anybody was wondering what the GPT stands for, it is Generative Pre-trained Transformer, whatever that is, designed to generate human-like responses to text-based prompts or questions. And that is a whole world of things that you can ask it to do. But some of the power that comes in with ChatGPT is that it's conversational. So this thread just started, I asked it a question, but it's going to remember what I just asked, and it's going to remember the answer. So I could just put in a command that says, make it shorter. And it already knows that I wanted to make this previous question that I asked and answer shorter. So it's going to do that. And it gives us a really nice, concise description of what ChatGPT is, this chatbot. And now, if I wanted to be a little bit more efficient with it, I could have just given it a better direction to start with, because the real power comes in ChatGPT when you give it more specific information and as many variables as you possibly can. So I could have started, instead of going 2 steps, I could have in 1 step said, what is a simple and concise explanation of ChatGPT? And it'll come up And here it is with a 2-sentence answer, very, very similar to what I just came up with. But again, just doing it a little bit different. So now let's see if we can challenge it a little bit more. I mean, what is ChatGPT? It already knows what ChatGPT is, but does it know what quantum physics is? And can it tell us what quantum physics is? Sure, it can. Oh boy, but I'm already seeing in this description here, wow, this is maybe a little bit over my head in trying to read and understand this. So I can give it another command here, and let's see if we can make it a little bit more understandable by just changing this. And again, it remembers what I just asked. So now explain it like I am a 5-year-old. And let's see what it comes up with here. It's thinking. Yeah, it's like a special kind of science that helps us understand really tiny things, like the tiniest particles that make up everything around us. I could have said 4-year-old or 3-year-old, and it would have even dumbed it down a little bit more. But hey, I'm a 5-year-old, and this is still a little bit too long for me to read. So can you make it shorter? And there you go. A tiny little paragraph, really simple, super simple. So hopefully now you're starting to get an idea and see some of the difference to how ChatGPT would work versus, hey, you can find out information on quantum physics by doing a Google search, but it would turn up, hundreds and probably even thousands of web pages with reference to quantum physics. It may or may not be exactly what you're looking for. It may be too long, it may be too scientific, and you just have to go page by page by page until you find what you're looking for, versus in a couple of statements here on ChatGPT, you can find exactly what you're looking for, and that's the real power of it. So a couple other things I want to point out on here. First is this regenerate response. So, hey, if I don't like the response that it gave, I could say, hey, try again, regenerate. So it's going to regenerate it and do it a little bit differently, and maybe have a slightly different take on it. You can see it made it just slightly longer, maybe change some of the words around. Now, it's always going to ask for feedback because it wants to learn. So was this better or worse? I'm just going to say it's around the same. But when you do regenerate a response, and you can keep going, and it'll save your responses, and you can toggle back and forth to the first response or the second response in view, and it'll save that information for you. And as long as you're going on the thread, it'll just keep going and going and going down. Again, there is sort of a useful life of just doing one thread of asking it all kinds of different questions. Sooner or later, it's going to maybe stop working or generate an error, and that just means you just need to open up a new chat or clear the chat that you have going on. Also, you'll see a couple of these icons next to each response. Again, it wants feedback, so you could give it a thumbs up if you liked it, you thought it was good, thumbs down if you thought it was inaccurate information or you didn't like the response. But a really useful button on here is this button here, which is a copy button. Once you click it, it basically copies all this text to your clipboard. Let's say you're using it to generate an email or some other text you're going to use in another location. Easily copy and paste it wherever you need to go. So that's the first basic functionality, is just asking it simple questions. But now let's move on to something slightly different, which is list commands. So you can ask it to give you a list, like a top 10 list of a certain category. So let's say, what are the top 10 ways to cure a cold? I'm hearing lots of people coming down with their late spring and or beginning of summer cold. So here's some useful information that you might get from it. Yeah, and even give you something, hey, remember, these are just suggestions and may or may not, won't cure an underlying viral infection. So you'll see it has lots of little disclaimers along the way for some of these things. So here's another one. What are the top 5 reasons not to use aspirin as an example? And it'll go ahead and give you what it thinks, and based on its own research. You might want to know, hey, what were the top movies? I'm looking for a good movie. What were the top movies of 2020? Notice I didn't do 2021 or 2022 because it can't do that. But let me show you, some of the real power also within here. Let's say I'm trying to figure out, I want to do a new hobby. So I could do a really random generic search like create a list of hobbies, and it'll go out and do that, and it'll probably come up with the most popular ones that it knows about, all things that you would know about. But let's say I wanted to get really, really specific about something, and this is where it's going to show you some of the power of ChatGPT and how specific you can be. Instead of just saying, hey, give me a list of hobbies, create a list of fun and unique hobbies for a Canadian couple in their mid-40s that most people have never heard of. And let's just see what it's already working on here. All right, I've heard of dog sledding and curling,
Dog
but
sledding,
foraging,
number 1.
Yeah. Wilderness survivor skills, backyard astronomy, urban beekeeping. Okay, some of these I've heard of. The last time I did this, though, I got some really unique ones. It's probably because I've been testing this out and done it a few times. It's running out of some super obscure and unique ones. But you can see, as an example, once you start giving it a lot more detail, it gets very, very targeted in the response. So that's just a few examples of lists that you can create. The next kind of category is what I refer to as long form written responses. So this could be anything from asking it to write a couple of sentences of text for you, create a paragraph, write a blog article, write an essay, maybe even write a song, emails, and maybe even a book. But there's a catch to trying to use it for writing a book, because the engine itself, ChatGPT, it measures characters in what it refers to as tokens, and each response that it gives is limited to 4,096 tokens, which is basically the equivalent of about 2,000 to 2,500 words. So you can't ask it to write you a 100-page book. It can't give you that long of a response. But if you wanted it to use it to write a book, you can ask it for paragraphs or write on a certain topic that you can use in a book, or maybe a chapter at a time or something like that. But let's look at just a few more personal examples of how you might do something. So let's say I was late on the electric bill and I just want to write a super email to electric utilities apologizing and letting them know the payment's on the way. So it writes this, and it's very thorough, but wow, that's a little bit of overkill. So I just want to make it shorter and just be a super quick thing, and there you go. It just does it super quick. But let's say now something a little bit more practical. Maybe you were thinking of writing a blog article, but you want it optimized for SEO. So you want it of a specific length, only 1,000 words, and maybe on the best ways to spend summer in Toronto. So it's going to come up, it's even going to break out each section and let you know exactly how many words are in each section. And the last time I did this, it was super specific. And wow, okay, I haven't counted all these words, but it's telling me that there's exactly 200 here, 100 here. I'm not sure if that's rounded, but the last time I did it, it ended with just like one word and just sort of cut off to make it exactly 1,000 words. So you can get very specific. I'm going to do one more example, just sort of a fun one for the heck of it, because I just happened to be down in Nashville recently, so I have kind of country on my mind. So write a country song about a dog that drinks beer and drives a pickup truck, and let's see if it'll even work up a sweat. And no, it won't. The verses, even with a chorus generated. So Thankfully, there's no music chords here. Otherwise, I'd be forced to sing it for you. So, and we don't want to hear that right now. So that's long form. You can see there's lots of different applications that you could really use that for. We're going to show some specific business examples for you in a few minutes. But I just want to kind of keep running through the basic functionality. The next section is like complex problems. That would be like trying to solve like math problems, even engineering problems, physics problems, and things like that. They can be both written problems, word problems, or numbered problems, and it'll solve those. I don't know if there's tons of business application. Maybe there is, but or maybe helping your teenagers like me figure out their math homework. But we're going to skip over that one for today. Feedback prompts. So you can ask it for feedback on specific things. So I am going to just use one of our blog articles as a guinea pig. So it's a guideline on creating better passwords. So basically you can take text and copy and paste text into the ChatGPT. So I wanted to critique the blog article and just give it a hyphen. Oops, I spelled critique. And now I'm just going to paste all the text from the whole blog article in there and hit enter. And it's going to start giving a review. And it's also going to be super nice at the beginning by saying, hey, it provides a good overview of the importance and it highlights the risks. So it's going to give us some positive feedback. However, it's also going to be a little bit critical on us and say, hey, you can improve the structure and flow by breaking it into sections or subheadings, maybe a better introduction, adding a conclusion would be good. So some definitely useful tips in here if you just write something yourself and you want somebody to critique it and give you some ideas on how you can change it.
Another good example we got is if you write an email and you want to get feedback from ChatGPT on how it's perceiving the tone of that email to be, you can put in your email and ask, how do you perceive the tone of this email to see if you're coming across, sounding overly harsh in an email, and however somebody else may interpret that incorrectly if that's not the tone you're intending.
Exactly. And I think everybody is probably guilty of that at one time or another on both sides of that fence, either writing an email that could have a tone that they didn't intend to send, and also read an email and interpreted it with a tone that the sender also didn't intend. So could be a useful tool in trying to get ahead of a potential situation that might flare up. So just wanted to sort of point out, I've already sort of been showing you some of the different ways that you can do modifications by asking it to make it shorter, make it longer. So some other ideas, like you can change the language, put in a piece of text and say, change the language into French, for instance, or make something longer, or make it shorter, or ask it to paraphrase an entire book, an article, or whatnot. You could ask it to change the tone of an article or text or whatnot, even change the style. So I'm going to give you an example, kind of a whatever. I was trying to think of a unique and unusual scenario that some people might not think of. So let's rewrite Mary Had a Little Lamb, but let's make it with an angry tone. I don't know. I was running out of ideas, so this is probably a bad example, but taking a children's thing and making it cruel. I'm such a cruel person, but it definitely did it. Its fleece was black as coal. Wow. And the lamb would cause a scowl. Okay, so that is kind of an angry tone, but let's see if we can, change up Mary Had a Little Lamb, but let's give it some sort of a fun tone. And let's see what happens when I do this. I'm just saying, now write it like Snoop Dogg, and it's going to understand that I'm asking it to rewrite Mary Had a Little Lamb, not my angry version, but just the version of Mary Had a Little Lamb. But Let's make it like Snoop Dogg. Yo, check it out. Mary had this dope little lamb. All right. So chilling and vibing on that gangsta lamb ride, just like Snoop Dogg. Anyway, just to give you some ideas, but there's so many different things that you can do. So the next kind of basic functionality I'll refer to as instructional guides. So you can ask ChatGPT to teach you how to do almost anything. So I'm just going to give you a simple example. Teach me how to make an apple pie from scratch. So, and it's going to go ahead and start bringing it up. Sure, no problem. Give you all the ingredients, all the steps to go through, how to preheat the oven, et cetera, et cetera. Everything from soup to nuts, but you could ask it to teach you how to play a particular song on a musical instrument, and it'll do all that. So really kind of endless possibilities there. The next kind of section is extracting information. So you give it a set of data or a reference, even giving it something like a reference to a book. So as an example, if I just wanted to ask it, who are the main characters in the book of Mice and Men? I just type that in. It's already got information on most of the books in the world. So it's going to pull that up. It's going to give me the name of the characters. It's also even going to give me a description. I didn't even ask for that, but it just went ahead and figured out that I might want that as well. But another really powerful thing is, hey, I don't want to read a whole book, but I need to know what it's about. So let's just see if I can paraphrase a giant book like Gone with the Wind, and I want it in one sentence. So probably a hard task, but let's see. Yeah, Gone with the Wind portrays the tumultuous journey of Scarlett O'Hara as she navigates love, loss, survival amidst the backdrop of the American Civil War and Reconstruction era. Not too bad. But you can see, and I could make it a little bit longer. If I wanted more information, I could just say, make it longer, and it'll enhance it and give more information, less information. You could ask for facts within the book. You know, what is the general idea? You know, well, it can give you pretty much any nuance of any printed material, or you can cut and paste your own material in there and ask it to find information. You could give it thousands of words and search for minute information within the text that you're providing it. The next section we're not really going to get into today either is, you know, writing computer code. So definitely good for programmers and, you know, IT people, that you could ask ChatGPT to write scripting and codes and things like that. We were just speaking to a colleague of ours from a peer company of ours in California, and they're using ChatGPT extensively in their own business, but they use ChatGPT to write scripting and things like that for them, to allow them to integrate ChatGPT into their Microsoft Teams. And they're able to, in a Microsoft Teams chat, enter some of these search phrases and things like that, and have ChatGPT both write blog articles and vet those articles and even post it, you know, onto their website for them. So again, that's getting, you know, quite a bit more advanced in functionality, but that functionality does exist. And even if you're a novice programmer, lots of novice programmers are using ChatGPT because you almost don't even need to know as much. You need to know some basics about programming, and you need to know what to ask for, but it can write code in pretty much any computer language and provide all the code for you that you just cut and paste in. So the last piece of it is I'll term as like conversation and advice. So as an example, let's say you're looking for a good movie to watch, but we're going to be specific about it. What's a good action movie made between 2015 and 2021 that I can watch with my 10-year-old? And it's going to give a great option here, Spider-Man, of course. And now I'm just going to give one more, maybe slightly different scenario if I'm going to ask for an opinion or a recommendation on something. And here's one. So my girlfriend asked me to go to the ballet, but I hate the ballet. How can I tell her I don't want to go in the most polite way? And if I just jump that in there, it's going to say, sure. It's even going to give you some general tips. You know, it's important to be honest while also considering her feelings, and then it'll give you the words to say, even suggesting that maybe, hey, we can look at some activities that we both like. So just giving you really the tip of the iceberg. But now let's get into some more specifics, you know, obviously for law firms and businesses really in general of how you might use it. So I think most businesses today, you know, are definitely using it for either certainly idea starters, or even just using it for writing a whole blog article itself. So let's write a blog article about how to find a good personal injury lawyer. Could be, if you do personal injury law, it might be an article that you have. And now lots of people are, you know, generating this for an idea, and then they might go in and hopefully they have a marketing person to go in and maybe, you know, change it up a little bit here and there to really make it your own. You can continue to make it your own by adding in more detailed information about your company, and things like that. But let's say you were going to use this as a blog article, but now I'm concerned about SEO, and I want to now just throw in this command, now optimize it for the keyword phrase personal injury lawyer Toronto. And once I do that, it's basically going to rewrite the same blog article, but it's going to add in that keyword phrase in here. So we're going to optimize it for that one particular keyword phrase, which is typically what you want to do with blog articles in trying to boost your SEO and search results. Now, one thing I will say about, you know, generating content like this is that, you know, it's already been found out with kids trying to use this for writing papers and reports and things like that. There are tools that you can check against it, and certainly Google will have a pretty good idea if you use ChatGPT to generate blog content, and it's going to recognize that, and you're not going to get as good of a ranking. So one of our colleagues that I know of has used a tool called Undetectable. It's literally undetectable.ai. And what they're doing is generating the article through ChatGPT and then running it through this tool called Undetectable, which basically will modify it slightly so that it doesn't look like it's all AI generated. And they also have a tool, and I believe the Undetectable tool will let them show them a report that says what percentage of this article was generated by AI and what looks like its original content. So basically that's what this tool Undetectable is making it appear as more original content, which is what you want with the search engines, and certainly Google. So that's one caveat that you have to keep in the back of your head while using this tool. Well, let's show another example here. Let's say I want to write a blog article describing what a person should do if they were hit by a car while riding their bicycle. So, and it's going to go ahead and generate it again by section, showing how many words are in each section. Let me just see if it shows the, yeah, it doesn't really show the disclaimer there, but here's
Mike, do you want to, there's a couple questions. So one that I think would be good. Why don't you type in what to do if I'm hit by a bicycle on my bicycle by a car?
Didn't I just do that one?
No, that's writing a blog article, right? So what's essentially what I'm doing is asking it for legal advice, because the question is any information on liability regarding legal information given by ChatGPT.
So let's see, what should I do if I was hit by a car on my bicycle? Yeah.
So a bit of
I'm not a legal expert. Yeah. And then there's always a disclaimer at the end as well. Anytime it's anything of a legal nature, remember, it's always advisable to consult a legal professional who specializes in personal injury. So yeah, that was definitely a good point. So the next thing that I was going to pick up is probably also something, very useful. Most companies are utilizing social media. So write a social media post welcoming our new partner, John Smith, to our law firm. Let's see how good of a job it does here. Citing news, even some little emojis in there. We are thrilled to announce that John Smith has joined our law firm as our newest partner with exceptional. It's already just made the assumption that he has great legal expertise and dedication to client success. But anyways, look, it's great even if it's just as a starter to give you some ideas. Who knows, you might use it word for word. It's even giving you hashtags at the end of it for your social media posting as well, which is pretty cool. Maybe you were trying to get some assistance in, for SEO, let's say for a blog article, for your website. You want to know what are the top search phrases for, let's say you're a family law practice, for family lawyers in Toronto. So it's also going to give you the caveat and the disclaimer, hey, I don't have real-time access, so this may not be as current, but here are some of the top search firms that it's aware of anyways, that you could utilize here. So again, it's really endless, and ChatGPT is a fantastic tool for any kind of marketing, email marketing, blogs, SEO, helping you write web pages and web content. But again, you will still want to look at it with your own eyes and maybe make your own adjustments and customizations to it. So the second area that it's really powerful with is research. So, again, it really all depends on what type of a law practice you are. But let's say, I don't know, again, you wanted to use the summarization kind of feature of it, and we want to summarize the Supreme Court case of Canada, of Carter versus Canada, and just see what it comes up with, and just gives you just a brief description. And for those who don't know, this is the ruling on physician-assisted dying for individuals in Canada. But anyway, so that's just one example. But I mean, you can search, hundreds of court cases. And now we have even heard of applications where you can do a private instance of ChatGPT yourself. Again, this is more, more advanced functionality, but there is a way to create your own instance and your own data set. So, there is the potential to store hundreds of court cases and actually have ChatGPT check against all of your own personal private data set to look for information. I'm sorry, you were going to say something, Tyler?
Well, I was actually you you answered the question that I was going to lead in with. Can you discuss confidentiality and security concerns? How secure and private are chats? So a little bit of that ties into if you set it up in a private type of environment. But otherwise, yeah. I would assume that you don't want to put any private or confidential information into ChatGPT.
100%, because look, we don't know. And well, I think I have a good idea that OpenAI, they're still developing this tool. And basically right now they're saying it's basically in a free trial scenario. So they're looking to see how people are used. That's how they're going to improve the tool, is by seeing what are people searching for, how are they using it. So the only way to do that is to capture everything that we're typing in here. So obviously they are definitely seeing that and capturing all that information. So putting anything sensitive, people's names, addresses, things like that, absolutely, I would highly advise against that. When you do your own private instance, it's checking against your own private data. It's still using the back end engine to do the search and the algorithms to parse the data and come up with the responses. I still don't even 100% fully know about the security, even in that environment. So all that's still TBD, and this thing is going to continue to change and evolve as time goes on. So once they get into like a full release of it, we'll know more.
Yeah, best recommendation, really leave things generic without specific names, addresses, anything like that. So if you wanted to generate an email or generate some sort of document, leave the parameters vague. If I wanted to create something around a service provider and a client, rather than giving our name as a service provider, identified as service provider client, rather than giving the specific parameters.
Exactly. So we'll just keep going kind of in the research section. I mean, to a point, you can use it to try and verify facts. I'll just ask this: is it legal to make moonshine at home in Canada for personal use? I think most of us already know it isn't, but it did give a quite extensive explanation of it specifically. And again, it still gives the caveat that facts may or may not be 100% true. So you still have to kind of do your own research with it, but maybe a quick way to try and, check something. Another research tool that businesses, law firms or just even any business might, if you're doing research, let's say on a target prospective company you want to do business with, or you're about to have a meeting with, you want to find out something, maybe you want to find out, let's say you're meeting with Microsoft, you want to find out what is Microsoft passionate about. Give you a pretty good response, with some things like their core values and whatnot, but some basic information you could, ask questions like, what is their revenue, how many employees, ask any kind of questions about the business, and it'll research all of that for you super quickly, and you can refine it however you might want to.
So Mike, just going back also to that comment, ChatGPT may produce inaccurate information about people, places, or facts. One of the attendees put in a comment here that just with using version 3.5, they were trying to locate cases with certain facts. It found 4 cases, provided very nice summaries as well as citations. He was very excited, or she was very excited, but soon learned that the cases were fictitious. It made them up completely and provided bogus citations. So I guess that ties into the fact that the information may not be factual.
Right. Hence, a potential use case. And I think probably in the future, a lot of companies are going to potentially adapt the private data set model, where you are basically entering in your own data that the engine uses. You still get all the functionality of the parsing and the algorithms it uses to manipulate and understand the data, but you can use your own clean data that is factual. Who knows, maybe it's all cases that you've tried in the past or that you've researched, and that the data is clean. So let's move over to, maybe things like, communication with clients. So as an example, let's say lots of people send out holiday messages. Let's generate a holiday email to our clients, thanking them for their support and continuing to work with our law firm. I mean, these are easy emails to write, but sometimes you get writer's block and you just want, an idea of what you might want to say, and it'll give you some stuff here, and you can go in again and manipulate that. Another probably, I don't know, maybe or maybe not a popular thing. Let's generate a positive email to clients informing them of a rate increase due to increases in operating costs and the cost of living. And let's just see what happens there. You're going to see it's going to be a very positively themed, and it's going to apologize probably for a rate increase, but it's going to thank them for their business, et cetera, et cetera. So another, great use for it. And, writing notes and things like that to employees, lots of different things that you can use it for in that section. So now there is the area of document creation, and I doubt that this is going to be something highly used in the legal space, but I'm just going to ask ChatGPT, what are examples of legal documents that can be created using ChatGPT? Because even some of the examples of other webinars I've seen of people demonstrating it, and these people are demonstrating, you can create your own like lease agreement and wills and stuff like that using ChatGPT. I certainly wouldn't trust it, but let's see what ChatGPT says, that it can create NDAs, employment agreements, rental agreements, who knows, maybe from a simple perspective, it can create a rental agreement, but it's still always going to give you the caveat, while it can provide assistance, it's always crucial to consult with a qualified legal professional to review and finalize any of these documents. So yeah, I certainly myself wouldn't trust using this unless I knew for sure that it was definitely approved by a lawyer. And I'm not going to go too much else into document generation, but probably lots of other non-legal type documents that you can potentially use it for. Chatbots, which is the initial intent of how this whole thing started. There's some really great add-in type, who knows, maybe some of you have a chatbot on your website already that's using some of this kind of technology. It can just be very conversational, and some of the more advanced ones work really well. And then the last thing I just wanted to cover was limitations. So, and we're just going to see, I'm just going to ask ChatGPT again, because who better to ask than the source? What are the limitations of ChatGPT for law firms? So it's also going to start with the caveat, while it can be a valuable tool, here's the limitations: lack of legal expertise, potential inaccuracy, also already cited in our comment section, absence of contextual understanding, meaning, hey, it's not really human. It can look and read text, but taking context, ethical and confidentiality concerns, limited customizations, and then responsibility and liability. So obviously lots of things that not only law firms, but anybody that's going to try and use this as any kind of a legal tool needs to be concerned about. Tyler, was there anything else from this perspective, or should I just sort of jump back out of this now, or was there anything else that we wanted to look at?
There's a few questions, comments, but it's not. We can address those in a minute. Nothing related to what you're doing here, though.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump back into this one here. Yeah, so just summarizing, how we think that a law firm could use it. Certainly marketing and research are probably going to be the biggest things. Also, client communications, helping you write things, emails, letters, notifications, researching, case analysis, summarizing an article, potentially verifying facts.
I've got a great one here, Mike. I've got a great real world example where one of the attendees, they use ChatGPT 4 to automate the entire intake process for residential real estate. GPT-4 wrote code to automatically send my clerk an email, send an email to the client, make an e-folder on Google Drive, and then and add the closing date to the calendar. So that's pretty awesome.
That's very cool. Yeah. A lot of things that you can do with customizations and by, adding in scripting. And like I mentioned before, ChatGPT can even write all the scripts that you might need in the programming to be able to automate some of these tasks. But definitely, I think you would need to work with somebody that's familiar, certainly a programmer. As I mentioned, for everybody that's attending today, we're going to send you this cheat sheet. We don't have to go through it now, but we'll send it out so you can have a look at it. Just some ideas and things to consider with ChatGPT. And that was basically everything that we wanted to present. And let's just check and see if there might be.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions we might need ChatGPT to answer for us.
Yeah.
So the last two, Mike, you see.
Yeah. So the question is, will ChatGPT give out quotation sources? Obviously, ChatGPT is not the source. Will there be concerns about plagiarism if that matters to somebody? So, yeah, I would, I would think, plagiarism could be a concern. I believe that the engine isn't is not supposed to completely plagiarize someone else when they're writing content for you. However, Google and other tools can recognize how they do it. I don't know, but they can recognize content that is AI developed versus just, you know, unique content. So that might cover off on the plagiarism part. Asking it to quote sources, I've actually haven't tried that yet. I would assume that it probably
No, and
can.
I've never seen it reference where it's sourcing that information or that quote from. But I haven't asked it either, so it'd be interesting to see if it will reveal that that source.
Yeah. But I wouldn't. I'm going to try that after we're done here. Now that I've jumped out of it, though, and ask if it can provide the source for information. I wouldn't doubt if it can. So let's see what this last one is. If I ask for the case laws related to certain situations, like for a case related to real estate agents' negligence, breach of fiduciary duty, et cetera, particularly in Canada, and that too from canlee.org, is it possible to do so with the help of ChatGPT with any of its versions? Gosh, that's a good question. I mean, we could try. I would suggest just trying plugging it in and seeing.
I imagine it would.
I imagine it would. It'll definitely give you some kind of a response. Who knows? This one might be slightly more advanced that you might need the GPT-4 to try and answer, but I would just copy and paste it, plug it in, and see what it responds. I'm certain it will give you some kind of a response. And I'm just going to, while we're talking here, and I'm gonna just plug it in on the side. I won't share my screen live here, but just to see if it even provides a response or if it breaks it. Let's see. Oh, yes, and I should have noticed this. When you reference the website canlee.org, so it's not connected, unfortunately, it's not connected to the internet, so it can't.
If you try in version 4, Mike, would it work? Because I was advised that version 4 will search the internet.
All right, let's see here. If I go back here and let me just try it one more time. In 4. Yeah, it kind of said the same thing. But it did give a response though. Whether it's
sometimes it's a lot of adjusting the query and shortening it and then kind of expanding on it and seeing how far you can get until it can't respond.
Yeah, so I'll share, I'll just share my screen super quick just to show you. This is what it kind of came back, and it said, you know, it still has limitations with browsing the internet in real time or accessing databases. So, and the training only extends to September 2021. However, it did offer some suggestions. Whether these are, you know, helpful or not to you, I don't know. Maybe we could have tried rephrasing the question, or you can play around with it and try rephrasing the question just to see what it might do if you got slightly more specific or reworded the question slightly differently to see what output it would have. Okay, and I think we don't have any more questions, but certainly if anybody thought of any more questions, you can certainly email us. Actually, I should have, I'm gonna put that back up here again and just leave this Q&A. So any questions you can just send to us, inquiries@pacetechnical.com. Remember, we will be sending you an email with access to the recording from today. Again, if we haven't met with you in a while, and you're love to have a conversation with anyone out there that might want to see what our capabilities are from an IT perspective, maybe even provide you with an assessment or whatnot, certainly get in touch. All right, but that's it for today. Hope everybody has a great rest of your day. If we don't speak to you soon, have a great summer and look out for our next webinar coming up.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Take care. Bye now.